Hello, my name is Lodetti. I've had the privilege of being the author of the first costing timber guides in New Zealand. This has been sponsored by the Wood Processing Manufacturing Association. The guide is one of many technical guides published by the New Zealand Wood Design Guides under the guidance of Annie van Hout. As a registered quantity surveyor, I have been giving cost advice to the construction industry for most of my life, and in over 3 countries, in South Africa, United Kingdom, and now in New Zealand. And I currently work for a multidisciplinary consultancy firm called Prendos. So why would New Zealand need such a guide? Surely New Zealand has been doing timber framing for decades. Well, the reality is that with innovation and different manufacturing techniques and processes, that we now have mass timber products that are not commonly used. And there are products such as LVL, which is laminated veneer lumber, glulam, CLT, and cassette flooring. These are just a few of the names, and it's products that we haven't commonly used in New Zealand. So typically a cross-laminated timber consists of many plies here and becomes a much more substantial product than what we've had before. Its strength and performance depends on the species, the thickness, and the process and application. So why the guide? Well, with these relatively new products, construction costs may not be certain, and QSs tend to be cautious when it comes to creating budgets. And there's been criticism that quantity surveyors have provided inflated budgetary advice when it comes to mass timber solutions. Why do quantity surveyors do this? Well, assessing the risks of a project, and in the absence of historical cost data, there are a lot of factors that need to be considered, and quantity surveyors tend to put in contingencies in their budget. So what this has resulted in is that when it comes to structural timber projects, that often they are over budget and are not able to compete with other options. So what now? Well, we want quantity surveyors to take on board all the factors when you're assessing a project like this. And we want them to avoid putting in unnecessary allowances so that they can at least bring a timber project to the table, the design table, and give the project a chance. Well, what I learned along the way is that timber manufacturers also need to understand how quantity surveyors go about estimating. So the guide has a twofold agenda. One is to explain the quantity surveyor's approach to how we move from costing a building based on a square meter basis and how we develop it through, as the design develops, to analysing the building in the elements and eventually looking at the detailed drawings and the final costs. Well, what the guide explores is where is mass timber appropriate. For that, I have 2 favourite projects I'd like to mention. And it's all around where is soil conditions the worst. It's those projects where you would think, well, this is not a feasible project. Well, in fact, timber is 1/5 the weight of concrete and also far less than steel. So in Christchurch, we had a project called Beeley Ave Backpackers. That project was not financially feasible using traditional piling and steel structure. When the project was considered in a timber solution, timber piling and cross-laminated timber walls and ceilings, it became a viable project. Then there's Arvida Retirement Village in Christchurch. That project was going to have excessive costs in piling until they considered a timber solution and used a gravel raft, concrete slab, and solid CLT walls and ceilings. And that project was then able to become a viable project. The case study in the guide is to showcase where a structural timber frame is cost neutral. It uses LVL joists and beams, which, as I said, is our laminated veneer lumber with a strong rod system. We hope that some of the details in the guide will be of interest, especially where people are trying to analyse the costs of a building. And until more historical cost data is available, we need to be able to move to a position where we can have confidence in projecting the future costs of such projects. Thanks to collaboration with QV Cost Builder, and in particular Martin Bissett, we were able to include extracts from the QV Cost Builder, which is a paid online service that has analysis and cost data available, which is in fact the old Rawlinson's, the trusted old quantity surveyor's cost Bible. We were able to show that from concept, what sort of cost plans you can access as you move through the cost banks of information to ultimately the more detailed trades. So ultimately, collaboration is what's involved in the process that leads to successful outcomes. Presently, most quantity surveyors used first principle pricing when looking at a new product, and that's unfortunately what we have to do until we have more historical data. Why support mass timber solutions? I'm not saying that steel and concrete don't have a place in design, but we want to know when is timber best to bring to the design table. It's the value proposition of timber that goes beyond the bottom line. So experienced quantity surveyors know that we need to look at the big picture, and that is why collaboration is so important with design engineers, with suppliers, and early contractor involvement to look at the buildability issues. Why involve builders now? Well, at the moment, any direct comparison with timber products, such as mass timber, will show it is more expensive than our steel. So we need to look at the full picture. And the factors that we need to look at is, can a timber design create less loads on the foundation and hence a cheaper foundation design? Can the preliminary costs be reduced by having a shorter construction program? Can scaffolding be reduced because of the methodology and approach on the construction site? And as well as the removal of waste. Can we reduce waste by having a pre-manufactured product come onto site? And the other side, which is often neglected, is how much is an early occupation to the client? How important is that? Because it unlocks for him potential income by having that building open up sooner. So quantity surveyors have the challenge of, when considering mass timber solutions, about looking at the big picture and what does this product bring to the table, and fully understanding what the cost drivers are. The guide attempts to address some of those, and of course you will need to research more, and that is why we say go and speak to a quantity surveyor. I'm Linda Lodetti. Thank you for watching this video.